Mount Rushmore of WWE Hall of Fame acceptance speeches. Number 1, the best Hall of Fame speech still to this day.
Scott Steiner.
No, that was a shitty speech. Bobby the Brain Heenan from 2004. Fantastic. Hilarious. Recovered from throat cancer. He was gone from the WWE because he was in WCW. He came back in 2004 when it was in Madison Square Garden. I was there. I attended, and it was hilarious.
Widely considered to be the greatest manager
of all time. Hands down.
By everybody.
Probably the greatest color announcer of all time. I know it's some people like Gorilla and Bobby. Some people.
But whose side is he on?
Yeah. Yeah. He had the famous call. Yeah. Number 2 would be the hoodie that I'm wearing, Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret Hart pours his heart out, and this is no pun intended, but this happens at a point where he just recovered from a full stroke on the left side of his body. So he fully recovered from that, God willing, and then he appeared on WWE television at the Hall of Fame for the first time since the 1997 Montreal Screwjob. So this is almost a decade later. And this is his first return, was actually at the Hall of Fame, and his speech was legendary. He told so many funny stories about traveling and pranks and ribs that the wrestlers would tell. Like I'll share a couple of quick ones. One of the stories he talks about, he says when Owen finally got his break and he got to join the WWF at the time, they wanted to go out and celebrate. So they took Owen to a strip club in San Antonio. And Owen is a pretty, like, family-driven guy. He doesn't really drink or doesn't want to peruse or anything like that. So they finally convinced him to go to the strip club. So Bret and Owen are sitting at the bar, and they're drinking, they're watching the show, and an hour goes by, and at the corner of their eye, Vince McMahon is walking into the strip club.
Oh, shit.
And Vince McMahon, the way Bret words it, he said he had a few soda pops somewhere else. So he's hinting that Vince was already, intoxicated by the time he came into the strip club. And some of the other wrestlers were already there, like Hulk Hogan's there, Randy Savage, the Legion of Doom. Damn. They're all there hanging out.
They're in the Hall of Fame, right? Legion of Doom?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. I kind of forget.
So some of the boys, like Hulk Hogan, is starting to stir up Vince McMahon in the Legion of Doom. And Hulk says to the Legion of Doom, who are sitting behind me and Rob, he's like, "You guys would never do your finish to Vince, brother." And the next thing you know, Hawk is up on the little table on the pole, and Animal picks up Vince, gets him up, puts him up on his shoulders, and Hawk comes off, and he kind of barely, like, touches Vince with, like, a powder puff clothesline, and then Vince falls back, and they catch him, and they sit him down, and they give him, like, a golf clap. And then Bret's saying that he's sitting next to his partner, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Anvil Neidhart, like a neurotic, is getting really nervous, and he's pulling on his beard, and he looks at Bret and goes, "Hart Foundation would have done it." And then the next thing you know, Hulk is looking at Bret, he's like, "Well, you guys actually going to do this, brother?" So Jim Anvil Neidhart picks up Vince in the bear hug, and the way Bret Hart words it, he goes, "Yeah, I took Vince's fucking head off with the clothesline." In the strip club.
Didn't he take, like, everybody's finisher that night?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And it was, like, on a hardwood floor, too.
Floor.
He fucking took all the bumps.
But, I mean, these are stories that, come on, these are awesome. You don't
You'll
get
love
to
to
hear
see that.
You don't get to hear this stuff. This is why I love the Hall of Fame, because they indulge you and they go through these stories that you will never hear unless you read books and things like that. Right. And I'll tell you another quick funny story about Owen. And Owen is known as one of the greatest ribbers of all time. It's Owen and Kurt Hennig.
But he was loved for it. He was never hated for it.
He didn't do like mean shit. Like Kurt Hennig would put shit in your fucking bag, and he would put a fucking
shit in King's
combination
Crown.
lock on your fucking suitcase, and you can't open your shit, and you can't change, and you fucking have to go home in your sweaty gear, and the fans still see you like you're in your. He would do all sorts of fucked up shit. There's one time where Kurt Hennig took a guy's fucking. This guy had a fake ear. He took the guy's fake ear off and threw it into one of the other wrestlers' beers. And the wrestler's sipping on the beer, and the ear went in his mouth. And
I heard that story.
Who had the fake ear? I mean, I only know Foley had the...
Arn Anderson had a friend, and this is like in the 80s. One of his friends had a fake ear. And Kurt Hennig, he took it off the ear, and he put it into Arn Anderson's beer.
That's fucking
And next thing you know, Arn Anderson's drinking the beer, and his ear goes right in his. So anyway, the Owen Hart story is right. So they check into a hotel, and they're at the reception, and the receptionist is actually answering a phone call, and on the phone call is actually Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who's up in his room. And he calls down the receptionist. He's just asked the receptionist, "Where's the gym?" And the receptionist goes, "Does anybody know where the gym is?" And everyone's like, "Give me the phone." I'll tell him, "Give me the phone." And then he gets on the phone, and now Hacksaw thinks that it's the receptionist talking on the phone, but it's Owen. And then Owen is telling Hacksaw, "Why don't you come down here and find it yourself, you lazy bastard?" And then Hacksaw's like, "Who are you talking to like that, brother? You know who I am?" And he's like, "Well, if you want to do something about it, why don't you come down here? I'll kick your ass."
Oh, my God.
So now Hacksaw's getting dressed. He's getting worked up. He's going to come down. He's going to straighten out this fucking receptionist guy. And then Owen Hart just hands the phone back to him.
And doesn't he just go upstairs or something like that?
And
he
Owen
just leaves.
Owen goes, "It's okay. Don't worry. Just tell him it was me, Jim Powers." Who was another wrestler at the time in the 80s. So the next night, obviously, Hacksaw goes down to the receptionist guy, and the receptionist guy's like, "No, it wasn't me. It was Jim Powers." And then the next night in the dressing room, Hacksaw Jim Duggan goes up to Jim Powers. He's like, "So, I heard that was," and then it was just like a
the guy's face is probably like, "What the fuck you talking?"
Those are the kind of ribs that Owen Hart would do. Again, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Bret the Hitman Hart. Number 3, and this is another one that'll make you shit and piss your pants. The Iron Sheik.
Oh, God.
Fucking wasted out off his gourd.
He's just bombed.
It's fucking great.
I don't know if I'm hearing every,
You gotta. It's a short one, so it's short and sweet, and it's fucking hilarious, and it's pure Iron Sheik.
Hulk Hogan.
He's like, "That Hollywood brand Japanese Hulk Hogan. He told me to break his leg. Hack poo, that piece of shit, no good." And they're just like, and then he keeps like. They play his music and they clap him off, and he comes back. He goes, "I want to say one more thing, and I want to let you people know." And then they clap him off again, and they give him his music. They walk him off. He comes back. He interrupts Mean Gene. He goes, "Let me tell you something, Chin Man. I want to let you know." It's pure like Iron Sheik, just ADHD fucking. It's good. Top 3 for sure. And my 4th one is one that I actually got to witness live. I was there in 2013, the Hall of Fame was at Madison Square Garden, and WrestleMania that year was at MetLife Stadium. This is the main event that had Rock, Cena 2, Undertaker versus CM Punk, and in the Hall of Fame that year, you had a stacked Hall of Fame. You had Mick Foley, Trish Stratus, Bob Backlund, Booker T, and the headliner that night was Bruno Sammartino.
Wow. Nice.
And Bruno Sammartino just spoke so eloquently, and he spoke so with so much care and love and compassion. And at the time, Bruno was almost 80 years old at the time, and you would never tell that this is an 80-year-old man up there talking. But he talked about the struggles of being, a World War II baby. He was talking about how his mother lost a couple of sons during this process because she was living in the mountains, and she would scale down the mountain in the blistering cold to steal bread and potatoes from the Nazis so she can feed her family. And he was talking about how he was a frail, skinny kid his whole life, and then finally when they were able to kind of end the war and he was able to get to America, he started building up his body, and he started becoming a power lifter and a weight trainer. That's where he met Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger actually inducted him into the Hall of Fame at that day, which was another great speech as well. So the whole thing, Arnold talking about Bruno, how he met him, and then Bruno just telling his story, how he came from near death, and he had, what did he say? Leeches. He had leeches that they had to kind of take out of his, he had such a bad, disease from being in the cold in the mountain. His mother would put leeches on his body to suck out the poisons and out of his system.
Right.
So just crazy shit that you would never hear unless you hear these people talk. But Bruno was before my time. I never got to see him. He was in the 70s, 60s,
Right.
a little bit in the 80s where he was kind of past his time at this point. But nobody sold more sellouts at Madison Square Garden consistently for pro wrestling than Bruno Sammartino. He holds the record.
Shit.
More than Hulk Hogan, more than Stone Cold, more than John Cena.
He holds the record for title hold too.
But yeah, that was if
He used to go to San Gennaro Feast every year. CJ and I used to talk about maybe going one time to go
Oh,
meet him,
Bruno.
but he passed away. We devastated.
Yeah.
He was like a hero.
Those are 4 speeches that are must watch. So if you haven't watched either of those 4 yet,